Welcome back. Diplomatic tensions between South Africa and the United States hit a boiling point yesterday. The fallout follows a Home Affairs raid at a Johannesburg processing center for so-called Afrikaner refugees. Washington has accused South African authorities of harassment and intimidation, claiming U.S. officials were briefly detained and their private passports details leaked. The U.S. State Department has warned that failure to hold those responsible accountable will carry severe consequences. Journalist Pieter du Toit helps to unpack this escalating row. A very good evening to you, Pieter. Thank you so much for joining us. And it seems like every quarter, if not every month, there seems to be some sort of a row between South Africa and the United States relations. Let's talk about this one with taking it back to those 7 Kenyan nationals who were found to be working in South Africa illegally.
Martha, good evening. Yes, from News 24. Look, this tension obviously has been building for a while. The U.S. Vice President Donald Trump, the U.S. President Donald Trump in February issued an executive order indicating that that country now considers Afrikaners like myself to fall within the category of refugees in that country, which started a process to assist those Afrikaners who believe that they want to flee this country because of a range of persecution issues to go to the United States of America. What happened on Wednesday was that the Department of Home Affairs conducted an immigration operation at the U.S. Facilitated refugee processing center in Woodmead, Johannesburg, where they arrested 7 Kenyan nationals who were working for an NGO contracted by the U.S. government, who were here doing illegal work. The United States government took umbrage to that and now is threatening the South African government because of that immigration operation.
And Pieter, in your News 24 pieces, you carefully, also stellarly so, detail fact from misinformation as well, and also going into just the fabric of how information operations normalize lies. Tell us a little bit more about this modus operandi that you see happening here.
Well, Masa, what I wrote on News 24 was with specific reference to AfriForum. AfriForum obviously is leading the charge as far as the claims around its so-called Afrikaner refugees are concerned. And what I argued on News 24 was that especially Kali Kriel, who is the chief executive officer of AfriForum, is a past master at the dissemination of disinformation, with specific reference to an earlier announcement this week that AfriForum has so-called information that journalists are taking money from the state. I think you can easily transpose what happened after Kali Kriel's unsubstantiated and baseless claims to this incident as well, where claims have been made of intimidation of refugees at this center. No evidence for that exists apart from what Kali Kriel and AfriForum are contending. Of course, AfriForum and Solidarity have been at the forefront of agitation in the United States. They claim agitation in favor of the persecuted Afrikaner minority in South Africa, although it is being seen in this country, certainly by myself and many other observers and journalists, as agitation in favor of U.S. foreign policy to the detriment of South African domestic policy. The ecosystem of disinformation happens in 4 stages, where information is first seeded and narrative is built around something which is patently untrue or a lie. That narrative, those stories, often in this case perpetuated by AfriForum and Kali Kriel, as we saw earlier this week, that narrative then gets transposed and it gets picked up by various echo chambers on social media who repeat these claims until they believe it's true. And by doing that, by repeating it often enough, it gets inserted into the national discourse, picked up by often and by uncritical news media, and then is sold for the truth. So disinformation is this big problem in this country. It's a problem which certainly is affecting the fourth estate, affecting journalism, and it is something that is affecting, and I consider it to being an attack on democracy.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about this disinformation and the ecosystem that it's built as well, even in that News 24 piece as well, you detail that and how it actually operates and works. But now with this disinformation that's continuing to be punted, even though we've got reputable news sources like News 24, like ourselves and others, who are putting out what actually has happened, the US has said there will be severe consequences for South Africa taking the actions that they did against those 7 Kenyan nationals still.
Marcia, yes. Certainly what we've seen in the United States since the ascension of MAGA and since the ascension of Donald Trump is that there has been an assault on institutions supporting democracy, not only government and state institutions, but institutions like the media, where the media are attacked and framed as the enemies, where objective evidence, verifiable objective evidence, is disputed and challenged by these echo chambers, by malignant actors in the United States. And that playbook, the way in which disinformation has really upended the world of news, the world of journalism, it's been transposed to South Africa. And one of the organizations that has been at the forefront of that is AfriForum, an organization which I argue is a vassal of the United States, an organization which really over the last couple of months has shown itself to be almost an extension of US foreign policy. And what they do in this country is follow that disinformation framework, that disinformation playbook, to attack institutions in this country, whether it is the fourth estate like yourselves and us, who play a significant role in maintaining or to help maintain democracy, or whether it is attacking institutions of state, fallible as they are, but are important to maintain our constitutional democracy. Why? The reason why this is being done, the reason why MAGA did it in the United States, the reason why MAGA-aligned organizations like AfriForum are doing it in South Africa is because they do want to attack, and they do want a change in the constitutional order to suit their own political ends. And we are seeing that manifesting in the way in which the United States is conducting its very aggressive and antagonistic foreign policy towards South Africa. You referred to the threats that the US Department of State has made. If you read that statement of theirs very carefully, there is very little to no evidence of intimidation of so-called Afrikaner refugees by South African law enforcement. So this does seem to be a bullying tactic from the United States, hoping that South Africa will capitulate, where South Africa, as far as our information is concerned, as far as the Department of Home Affairs is concerned, merely executed act laws and statutes which govern immigration in this country. Why should US foreign policy supersede South African domestic legislation? It should not.
And that is a very good point to end this interview on. Pieter, thank you so much for your time. All the best to you. That, of course, is News 24 journalist Pieter du Toit.